Hi, I'm Carl Thompson, APAC Pre-Sales Director here at Arcserve. With the recent announcement on the Arcserve Cloud Services DRaaS platform, I wanted to take partners through our Arcserve UDP solution and how they can leverage the comprehensive feature set to build out a great disaster recovery as a service solution. Arcserve UDP offers extensive backup and disaster recovery across physical and virtual workloads with tight integration to VMware, Hyper-V, and Nutanix. Extended coverage for Exchange as well as SQL and Oracle databases. There is flexible licensing models across software and appliance options. One of the key features is the inline source-side global deduplication across all recovery points as the data is being written. Virtual Standby creates a full independent clone VM which automatically updates with every backup for automatic or manual failover. An instant VM can minimize disruption and system downtime for mission-critical applications with VM recovery in as little as 2 minutes. Assured Recovery offers non-disruptive, fully automated disaster recovery testing as well as file system integrity verification for added peace of mind. New to UDP 9 and in addition to the private console is the Arcserve Cloud Console. This is a secure SaaS multi-tenant management console with multi-factor authentication. It includes enhanced availability, durability, and scalability with the new cloud object storage option. Modern architecture, enhanced user experience, and workflows. Looking at a high-level single-site deployment with our cloud console, we start with deploying the gateway. We then deploy the recovery point server to protect your workloads. You can add on dedupe cloud object storage, and you can add in virtual standby for those critical machines. Here are the cloud account options. What we can see here is the dedupe cloud storage currently supports Amazon S3, Google Cloud Platform, and Wasabi storage. And for virtual standby, we support Amazon EC2, Microsoft Azure. Obviously, your on-prem workloads would be included under virtual standby for VMware and Hyper-V and so forth. And here is an example I'm going to walk you through in a step-by-step demo. We're going to look at doing local backups for speedy recovery, a dedupe copy in cost-effective Wasabi cloud storage, and then adding on virtual standby in Azure. The high level to get up and running, once we've got into the cloud console, is adding the customer account, downloading the gateway and installing, adding and installing the recovery point server, adding the machines you want to protect with the sources, followed by creating and applying the policies for protection. The virtual standby for Azure, we'll go and create the virtual standby task in the policy. After each backup, it will automatically convert into a snapshot for each disk in the Azure Blob storage, including updating the disk information and boot configuration. And at any time from the cloud console, you can start the virtual standby VM where it will create and launch the VM. If the site goes down, you can manually select the snapshot and attach the disks in the Azure VM to get it up and running. Let's jump straight into the partner zone to access the cloud console and take you through it. Right, so I'm logged into the cloud console here. If you need any help with this, please reach out to your local Arcserve representative. The first time you come in here, you will, if you're a partner wanting to add in customers, make sure you select the 2-tier account. So that's going to be really important to make sure that you get the setup of the cloud console right. So 2-tier account. The other thing you'll note here is the Cloud Direct and the UDP trial. So start off by activating your UDP trial. Once that's been activated, you'll have your little quick start guide here, but basically we're going to move forward and go into the Protect tab. Now the first thing we'll do here is add in a customer account. So for this demo today, I'm going to call it Carl-Demo1. That's going to be my customer account. So I'll click Add. It takes just a few moments. You'll see a little pop-up in a minute to say that that has been successfully added. And at that point, we can then go ahead and proceed with the remaining setup. All right, so I can see there it's now popped up, added successfully. Click on the account name there, and we can see here the little dashboard here. But in actual fact, if I just jump back to customer accounts, where I want to go to manage that sub-organization is over here, the little gray button, the view details. So I'm going to click on that one there. And this is where we can proceed with the setup. Now, the first thing I need to do is create a site and then deploy the gateway. So under settings, for sites, we will need to add a site. So for example, this might be the physical location. I'm just going to call this demo site 1 and go next. And what we get here is the gateway authorization code. So I'm just going to copy this, but when you click finish, you can go in and grab that at any time by clicking on the site name. You've got the authorization code there. So the next thing is to download the gateway. So I need a VM where I can run the gateway from. We're typically going to have 2 Windows machines, one running the gateway and the other will run the recovery point server. We want to keep them separate at the moment, and in the future we'll release better common sharing of the third-party tools there, and in which case they will be able to be combined. But at the moment, best practice, have the gateway on its own Windows machine, and then we'll use that to push out the recovery point server to a second Windows machine. So for the gateway, you've got here the download. So go ahead and download the gateway. I have pre-prepared the download on a Windows machine here. So I'm going to go ahead and run the setup. As part of the setup, it's going to ask me for some administrative credentials for this local machine, and it'll also ask for the authorization code, which we can paste in. And that's really it. I'm just going to follow the bouncing ball, next, 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 through that install, using the default install path is fine here, and then we'll jump back into the Cloud Console to proceed. Accept the license agreement, the default location. I'm just going to use my local browser proxy settings here, admin password, and you can see there the authorization code, which I can paste in. Go next. It's going to set up. We'll validate that and then move through for firewall exceptions that we'll need, messages, install path confirmation. So pretty straightforward. This just takes a few moments. Once this is complete, what is really important is we just go and monitor this from the Cloud Console, because what I've noticed if you move too quickly is this can tend to be installed and then perform an upgrade. And obviously we don't want to move forward with anything while this upgrade's in progress. So we just watch here through the install is now complete. So that's nice and easy. But if we jump back over to the Cloud Console now, what I'm going to want to do is go back to Protect. In actual fact, I'm actually wanting to jump over to reports. So reports here is where we'll see the jobs, and we can see here the gateway upgrade is actually already 60% through. So this typically happens right away after you've deployed the gateway. It'll go and update itself to the most recent version from the Cloud Console, and so that keeps it in check with versioning that we run the console on. So always make sure that completes first, and then we can move forward with deploying the RPS server, and again we'll monitor that through the job progress. All right, so I just did a couple of refreshes there, but I can see that is now completed, so it does take a couple of minutes to perform that upgrade. But now if we proceed back to the Protect tab, I'm going to jump straight down to Recovery Point Servers, and I'm going to add a Recovery Point server. So my server is called RPS-server, credentials there. I'm happy to use the default install path and click Save. So that's successfully added. Now again, that is going to take some time to do that install. So what is best is if you go back over to the reports page, that defaults to the jobs, and we can see there that installation progress. So again, it is best to monitor this, make sure that that deploys before we move forward. That is going to push that out from the gateway server and install the RPS. Once that is installed, we'll proceed with the setup, and probably the next step we'll do is go and add in the data store. So my plan is to add in a local data store for the site and then add in a second cloud data store for an offsite copy of those backups. So we'll let this install and then we'll proceed with the next steps. All right, so we can see here that the recovery point server has now been deployed. So if we jump back to the Protect tab and go down to Recovery Point Servers, we can see here now it's actually showing the versions. That's indicating to me that it's all up and running. But from here, if we go in here and go Add Data Store, so I'm going to add a local data store, so it can be on a local NAS or local disk. So we're going to call this Data Store 1, my local data store. Then for the data store folder, what we can do here is put in the path name and it will automatically create the folders for me. So I'm going to call this, put this into D drive data store 1, and then I want the data store folder to be its own subfolder here. Concurrent sources, default is 4, block size, memory hash allocation, and then I want to put the hash destination on a solid state drive. Now for reference, if we just scroll to the top, we've got a really good requirements planning quick reference here. And in this example, if you've got 10 TB, 60% dedupe, 30% compression, hash on a solid state drive based on your deduplication block size. It's estimating here 2.8 terabytes for the data storage, the hash space. So again, if we can ideally have that on SSD, 10 GBs, and maximum hash memory allocation there as well. So that's particularly important if you're not using the solid state drive. It will need more memory for that hash. So there we have the quick reference. But if we just go down further, we then need folder structure for the data, the index, and again, ideally the hash on SSD. In my case, this is all on SSD, so I'm just going to put them all into the same folder structure, index, and then down to hash. So again, this will create that folder structure for you, enable compression, standard, and then go ahead here and put in my encryption password. Okay, so data store, there's my local data store. And then what we'll do is jump down to cloud accounts, add cloud account, Wasabi. So I'm going to use a Wasabi hot storage here. So cool. And then when I go and add a data store in there, it is going to ask me select the bucket. Now, if I go back to recovery point servers, I will be able to go and add a cloud data store. Is now another option, Wasabi. So again, for the data store folder, we'll put in folder location structure similar to before, D drive Wasabi data store. Going to go with enable dedupe, again, hash on the solid state drive. For the index, again, it will create the folder for you. We need that to be local. The index does get backed up to Wasabi automatically as part of the job. So the hash destination, again, ideally on SSD storage for the performance, otherwise it will need the memory space. Got my Wasabi account there. For the region, I'm going to use Sydney, so I need to select other. We can put in the Sydney Wasabi credentials there, and the bucket is just Carl Demo that I have already set up here. Enable compression, enable encryption, and away we go. So I've got the local data store. I've now gone and created a Wasabi data store where I can have a copy of those backups go to as well. Can actually back up directly to the Wasabi storage, but for performance of local recoveries, I think it'll be nice to have local backup there as well. Now, the next step is to add some sources to back up. So for the agentless VMs, what we need to do is go back over to settings, add the hypervisors. So I'll actually add SXI host that I can connect to. So I'll log in there. You know, this could be your vCenter. That'll go and scan that and provide me with options to start protecting those VMs that are on there. Over on protect under agentless VMs, we can go add sources from hypervisor, hosts and clusters, connect. And in this case here, we can see I've got a bunch of VMs here. So I'll just go save and add. Cool. And then for machines, I'm going to go and add source and add a Windows source. So I'm wanting to deploy the agent here. So I've got a machine called app01, save to list. So I'm going to go and deploy the backup agent to this particular machine and click add sources. Install and upgrade agent, start. Reports, jobs, there we go. All right, well, just while that's installing, we can actually move ahead here on this point because what we want to do is go and create some policies. Now, there's a default policy here, which I'm going to ignore. Create a policy. I'm going to do agent to local to Wasabi. Okay, so I'm going to do agent-based backup for the task. What to protect, I'm going to do agent backup, all volumes. Where to protect, I'm going to use my recovery point server to my local data store and put in a password. And then for the when to protect, I'm going to do a custom schedule. I want to back up every hour from early in the morning, perhaps, through till late in the evening. So I'll just go in 2105. So every hour throughout the day for local backups. I'm going to go ahead here and create that policy. And then what I will do actually is I'll come back in and add in a task to send a copy to Wasabi as well. So we'll just let that policy get provisioned and then come back in and we'll add in the task to do a copy to Wasabi as well. And then we can actually go back and check at that point if that agent has installed, and we can go and apply the policy. So what to protect, copy to another data store, where to copy to same RPS server to Wasabi, and then it's just got a retry fail there, but I can go ahead here and save that now. So that's really straightforward. What I might do as well, just while we're in the policies, is I'll create another one for the agentless backup, and we'll do that as well. So we do separate out the agentless versus the agent backup policies. So in here, I'm going to do agentless to local to Wasabi, follow the same approach here, and agentless backup to RPS is what we're going to do for the task. The RPS server is the backup proxy, VMware tools, let VMware choose the best transfer method, that's all good. Where to protect, again, I'm going to do to the local backups first, put in a session password error there, and then when to protect. Again, in this instance here, I'm going to back up every hour as well. Put the timing slightly off so not everything's running at the same time here, but yeah, that'll run hourly backups throughout the day. For this one, again, I'll just create the policy. I like to create that without doing too many things at once here, and then I'll just go back in and add in the option for this one for Wasabi as well, like we did before. So back in here, really all we're doing is adding in that extra task. Down out of the way a little bit here, select that. We're going to do copy to another data store, where to copy to Wasabi. So both those policies are the same now. Once that policy has been created, we can then go and apply that to the particular machines that we're wanting to back up. Okay, I'll just double check on reports that the agent has been installed, so that's all good. Go back to protect page under machines. For the APO1, I'm going to assign a policy, and we can see there I can only see the agent policy because that's the only one applicable to that machine, and go confirm. So that'll now go and deploy that policy to that machine, and it's basically good to go to perform those local backups, and then the RPS will go and do a copy to the Wasabi storage as well. So over on agentless VMs, we can follow the same approach here, assign policy, and in this instance, we'll have the agentless policy here for this one, and I can go confirm. Okay, so I can see that one's deploying under machines. That one has now deployed, so I can actually go ahead here and click start backup, and away we go. And then go back and check actually for the agentless VM, that one has also deployed, so we can go and start that backup as well. Now, while that's running, that's really the base setup, right? We've kind of effectively got a backup as a service, right? We've got local backups plus a copy going to cloud. Now what we can do is we can actually look at adding in some sort of disaster recovery capability. So if we go back down to cloud accounts, add a cloud account, and what I'm going to do is we've got an option for Amazon EC2 virtual standby machines or Microsoft Azure. So I'm going to use Azure today, Azure, and then we need to go into our Azure portal and get the details. So subscription ID, I have here. I've got my tenant ID, which is over here. The access ID is actually your application ID. So you'll need to follow our user guide on creating an app, enterprise app, and then it'll be the application ID here. And then with that, you'll then have the value, which is the client's secret key that will get created. So go and put that in here, and then click save. So you just follow our documentation for that. It does link to some Microsoft documentation to help you navigate getting those IDs if you get stuck. But now that I've got the Azure account set up, what I'm going to do is go into these policies. Okay, so I can see here my jobs have finished the backups and they've both finished the copy into Wasabi. So I'm going to go in here, we'll select the agent one first, and we're going to add in the virtual standby. So this is an additional task. So we jump straight down to tasks, and I'm wanting that to run from the local backup. So I don't want to pull it back down from Wasabi to get it into Azure. So we're going to click the plus here, select that task, and we're going to do the virtual standby. Destination of the agent backups is going to be used. For the virtualization server, we'll select the Azure, and I'll just make a little bit of room here so we can see what we're doing. The resource group, I'm just going to use my default one here that I've got ready, which is Australia East, and then the monitor is going to be RPS-server. Easy way to remember. And username to connect to the monitor there, And then for the virtual machine, I like to use the prefix VSB, virtual standby, and then it will follow by the machine name. It's going to keep the last 5 snapshots. So I'm doing hourly backup, so that'll be at least the last 5 hours, or overnight will contain more. So you can obviously increase that or change your backup frequency in terms of how that will be impacted. The virtual machine size, storage account, security group, subnet, so forth. So you'll have all of that ready to go. I've just got auto assign there. Additional settings is just some additional heartbeat, but I'm not using the monitor to automatically fail over and start the machine. I'm happy to control that manually and make sure that there's definitely an issue before I want to go and have it virtualize automatically in Azure. So I'm just going to leave all that and click Save Policy. So again, this was for the agent policy. I'll go, and again, for completeness, we'll go and do the same thing again for the agentless backup. That policy, we will also add in the virtual standby, just to show you the various different methods. But we can see here, this is now currently deploying that policy to the agent. I'll go and do the agentless one now at the same time. So again, pretty much just following those same steps. We'll drop down, add in the task here. But what is important with virtual standby is you do need to set this up in advance. We can't, if the site goes down, I'm going to need that machine pre-staged, ready to go. So virtual standby, again, off the local backups, virtualization server is Azure. That'll load up my default storage, resource group there, Australia East. Happy to use here for this one. Have it connect and validate that that's all good. Then we can again move to the virtual machine page. Again, I'm going to put in here VSB, 5 snapshots I'm okay with here. Again, machine size of DS2. I think actually that one might be different, but it's okay. We can always play around with that a little bit later. So I've got all that set. I can go ahead here and save that policy, and we'll see that go and deploy over to the agentless machines as well. I can actually see this one here has already deployed. We just go and take a quick look at that one while this one's deploying over here on virtual standby. You can see here, so it's got the source machine Apo1, which was the agent, the target machine VSB Apo1, and it'll obviously be going through that process to create that standby. The process to get up and running, if we just have a look here, that policy deployment, you can see actually now here under virtual standby, just with refreshing the browser here, that they are both set up. We can just see here, looking at the jobs, I just went and triggered a manual backup of these 2 servers. One of them here, the agentless one, is still running. The Apo1, the agent backup, is now doing a copy to Wasabi. And we can see here it's also then triggered the conversion to create that initial disk in Azure. So we'll follow that. And once both of these have converted, we can go and look at triggering that, that virtualization into Azure and look at how that works. And just looking here, we can see there that first Apo1 is still progressing that conversion. Apo2 has now finished the backup and the copy to Wasabi, but here we can see that conversion in process. So again, this is the initial creating those virtual disks in Azure, so it will take some time, but we'll pop back shortly and look at it once that has progressed a little further. Okay, so we can see here I've got a couple of recovery points that were updated quite recently after some backups that have been running. And what we'll do is we'll go in and start these standby VMs into Azure. So I've actually logged into the portal over here. I've got no VMs running at this time, so there's no resource. This is really just consuming blob storage. But for Apo1, you can see the most recent backup. Here's the 5 that we defined, 5 snapshots in the policy. But I'll go ahead here and power on Apo1, and then we can go and do the same here. Standby VM, select the most recent one, power on VM, and confirm. So yeah, look, it really is that easy. If our on-prem recovery point server is not available and we're not able to initiate this, those disks are available in Azure storage. You can go and create VMs and attach those disks and they will boot as well. So this is obviously nice and easy, great option for testing. Go and look at the logs, power on, manual power on, so Apo1, Apo2, power on, submitted, allow some time for the VM to power on. So we've submitted those API calls and it'll just take some time. So you can see that there's the Apo1 VM now turning on, and we should see the other one shortly after as well. So super easy to do from the console. Just for the sake of going through this, let's just go down here and turn on the boot diagnostics, and we can actually grab a screenshot and watch this machine come up. So I'll just turn on the boot diagnostics there. We'll take a moment while that's running. We'll see if the other VM has come through, Apo2, and I'll just go and do the same thing there. Boot diagnostics, turn that on. Cool, so that'll just take a minute, but we should start to see as these screenshots get created, the system's booting up. We can also take an opportunity to jump into the network, and I'm just going to check that I've got 3389 opened up inbound, which I do here, so that's been added in there, so I can jump on and RDP in there once they come up. So yeah, all good there. Boot. There we go. So that one looks like it's come up and it's maybe doing a reboot. Still just going to need a bit more time. So we can see that that's working along there. But yeah, again, super easy. And in fact, just while that's loading, what I will show you is if you are going to create these machines manually, if for example the on-prem is down, we've basically got the two VMs. They'll be stored in their own containers, and then we've got the VHD. So I can see my C drive, 90 gig, D drive here in this case is 250 gig with the disk name. But inside these, you will see the various snapshots which you could promote based on your recovery requirements. But yeah, what I do here is if I go into UDP under logs, you can actually make a note from a prior conversion. I can see here, for example, Apo2, it's got the name of the disk, and I think that might even be the container there, but disk 315326, for example, 502, 315326. So that there, that 502, I believe, is referenced here. Yeah, is the container name and then the disk name. So that's how you can make a note so that you know that container and VHD name is relating to which machine. Should you need to manually power it on, that's where you can access them from. But yeah, if we jump back, look at these virtual machines, and let's see what the current state is. Cool, so Apo1 looks like it's come up and at the login screen, and so has Apo2. So super easy. We can even go in here and go connect, download the RDP file. Sorry, it's coming up on my other screen here. I'll go connect, and then I just need to go and log in. Okay. Cool, it's just coming up on my other screen. Oops, and move it over. But yeah, as you can see, look, this works really well, and this is a great option to use if you need to bring up a customer should their on-prem fail. You know, obviously having those snapshots enable you to go back in time based on your needs. But you know, we've got the full performance here of the Azure platform in this case. So super easy to do and provide access. That was Apo2. We can go do Apo1 as well. Download RDP. Again, it just keeps popping up on my other screen, but I can go through here. Here's that logging in just now. So yeah, cool. All right. Hey, well, look, that's a very quick demo. Obviously from here, you know, once these are logged in and we're using them, either it's just for testing, which is all I'm doing in this case. It is really as simple as going back into Azure and just deleting the machines. You know, once you don't want to use them, we can have it retain the disks. And, you know, in that case, you know, UDP will just continue to keep running and keep running these jobs. Oops, those are the VMs powering down. But over here under virtual standby, these jobs will just keep running, and as the backups come in, they'll continue to update those standby VMs in Azure in this case. So yeah, super easy, but thanks for watching this demo.